Dr. Rael Een cut through the sealed hatch with blood drying on his sleeves. Sparks showered the deck while the emergency lights burned bright green instead of red. Inside the bay, 89 unarmed medical staff lay dead beside the shattered stasis pods, destroyed in the first 3 minutes of the conclave attack. He grabbed a surviving nurse by the shoulder and pulled her into the pressurized airlock. Outside the thick viewport, the UNHS Mercy's hand drifted in 2 burning halves across the Lurin Drift. Een sealed the hatch, crammed 19 survivors into the last pod, and punched the emergency launch key. If you believe true strength lies in protecting the defenseless, leave a like and subscribe to stand with us. Earth's 72-hour ultimatum hit the galactic network 4 minutes later, but Grand Executive Drawn dismissed it without reading past the preamble. 6 days later on Series 4, the grain harvesters stopped moving. Workers on the farming moon killed the power to the agricultural lines, unbolted the heavy fabrication presses, and began welding troop armor without waiting for directives from Geneva. They worked in 12-hour shifts under cold floodlights, melting down tractor frames to mold hull plates for warships. By day 29, Admiral Daria Solano drove the Third Fleet across the Conclave border. Military analysts in the Conclave's Central Command had calculated an 18-month human response time, yet 70 human destroyers dropped out of warp right above the drift border posts. The human ships did not form standard defensive lines or wait for long-range targeting locks. They surged forward in tight tactical pairs, linking their engine outputs and firing heavy kinetic rounds directly into the Conclave vanguard. Solano did not target the retreating troop transports. She ordered her communication officers to hijack every local civil frequency across the border sector. Instead of demanding surrender, the fleet began broadcasting the 42-minute unedited black box recording from the Mercy's hand. The file played on a continuous loop. Alien station operators tried to deploy military jamming signals, but local technicians on border outposts overrode the security locks to watch the footage. They saw the clear markings of the unarmed hospital ship. They watched Conclave battlecruisers open fire on open rescue hatches. On Bait Station, the primary communication relay for the Regional Conclave Command, the broadcast reached 40 million military personnel at once. Solano brought her flagship within point-blank range of the relay's main power grid. Her engineers had spent 3 days stringing high-output capacitors along the hull, building an improvised pulse weapon out of spare reactor coils. She gave the order herself. The high-energy blast hit the relay's core, melting the primary relays and severing 40% of the Conclave fleet's real-time communication network in a single second. The station went dark, leaving 30 alien commanders floating without orders from high command. Down on the contested mining moon of Dreth 6, Sergeant Voss Harlan dropped into a drainage trench under heavy plasma fire. Dirt kicked up into his teeth as he dragged his squad leader behind a concrete wall. The Conclave sensor array on the ridge blocked every human air transport within 500 kilometers. Harlan unhooked 3 thermal charges from his vest and gestured toward the drone maintenance pipe crawling up the ridge. He didn't offer a speech. He crawled into the dark, rusted pipe, pulling his rifle through the muck, while plasma bolts thundered against the metal hull above him. He reached the primary junction room beneath the array 20 minutes later. 2 alien technicians stood near the main processor, listening to the leaked black box audio playing from a handheld comm unit. Harlan kicked open the access grate, leveled his rifle, and pointed toward the emergency exit hatch. The technicians dropped their tools, raised 4 hands each, and backed out into the corridor without pulling the alarm. Harlan slapped his charges onto the central optic trunk, set the timer for 10 seconds, and scrambled back down the maintenance tube. The explosion blew the dish off its mounts, restoring human sensor coverage across the entire hemisphere. 3 sectors away, Director Hannah Riolo opened a private channel to the dissenting species of the Conclave Coalition. She did not open with threats of orbital bombardment or economic blockades. In every message, she listed the names, ages, and hometowns of the 89 medical personnel lost on the Mercy's hand. The Vari Trade Alliance broke off their supply ships first. Their merchant guilds refused to haul fuel cells for Drawn's personal fleet after a Conclave frigate fired on a Vari freighter trying to rescue human life pods. Vari infantry units posted along the outer perimeter began laying down their weapons, choosing to share rations with human ground troops rather than enforce Drawn's martial law. Inside the central Conclave war room, Fleet Admiral Sarath sat alone at the long steel table. He picked up his glass tumbler, took a slow drink of clear water, and set it down in the exact center of a paper map. Beside his elbow lay the original attack order for the Lurin Drift, stamped with Grand Executive Drawn's personal cipher. Sarath opened an unencrypted channel to Solano's flagship and Earth's diplomatic center in Geneva at the same time. He transferred the verified file to every planetary network in the Coalition with a single keystroke. No honor, no justification, no defense. Within 2 hours, 3 Coalition member species formally withdrew their fleets from the front lines. Conclave Council guards marched into Grand Executive Drawn's private chambers, stripped him of his rank seals, and locked him in the lower hold of his own flagship. A single Conclave frigate off the Geneva perimeter refused the stand-down order and brought its weapons array online. Solano's lead destroyer did not open fire. Instead, 3 human supply tenders moved between the frigate and the atmosphere, dropping their kinetic shields and painting their hulls with bright emergency lights. The frigate's targeting locks flickered, faded, and shut down completely. The peace terms were signed 3 days later in Geneva. Humanity demanded no territorial annexation, no forced labor, and no planetary indemnities. They required only 3 things: full public accountability for the attack, immediate military court trials for every officer involved, and a permanent, unpoliced mercy corridor for all medical vessels across galactic space. In the newly built medical center overlooking the Geneva Bay, Dr. Rael Een stood before a clear glass display case near the main entrance. Inside lay his torn, stained surgical gloves, preserved under thin glass beside the fresh green navigation light of the station's primary airlock. Out in the dark of the Lurin Drift, long lines of human cargo ships glided past returning alien freighters. Neither fleet raised weapons. They moved side by side through the open corridor, their green running lights flashing together against the quiet dark.